Hello, welcome to the Power Up Talk Show, a talk show where we bring together community leaders and inspirational people that are making a difference in our world. I am Sandy Spady, your host, and welcome to the journey. Today's guest, Christopher Slater. Hello, welcome.
Hey, Sandy.
Wow, let me count the ways. 30 years experience in advertising, marketing, strategic business planning, and just really knowing people, right? He just recently, he has the Syndicate Agency, ad agency, social media, SOS, you name it. I don't know if it's SOS. I call it SOS because I need SOS with COS.
It is
What's
for
it
some
called?
people, yeah.
It's like, whoa. Christopher, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's talk about Christopher. What do you want the audience to know about your journey, professionally and personally? Let's get to know Christopher.
Well, you say 30 years, 35 years of my adult life, I've been working and managing people, and some call that seasoned, others call it old.
Yes, I call it seasoned.
But, I was a broadcasting and advertising major in college. I was the journalism guy in high school, yearbook editor, photography editor, always been creative. So I always knew that was a space that I wanted to be in. After I moved back to Omaha from Lawrence, Kansas, went to KU, I applied for a job with an ad agency. I thought it was going great. I had 4 interviews. It was down to me and one person. I didn't get the job. So at the time, I was working at Nebraska School for the Deaf, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. So that started a nearly 20-year detour into the marketing and advertising world. So from there, went on to co-found and run a group home business for at-risk kids and at-risk teens. And then I sat on the Douglas County Juvenile Drug Court treatment team for 10 years. So I've done a number of different things leading up to that. But that taught me a lot about business ownership. It taught me a lot about problem solving. It taught me a lot about compassion, and it taught me a lot about listening.
Listening. What's the secret? I'm just throwing out secrets of selling. It's less talk, more listening, right?
That's right.
Because you cannot find what they need or offer what you can offer until you know what they need. Was that a nonprofit?
That was not a nonprofit. Okay. So it's interesting you say that, though, because then from there, I left that business and went on to be the executive director of a nonprofit. And some of you may be aware of it. It's Angel Guardians. And once I was there, really sparked another fire for the creative side. For all of these other businesses that I'd been involved with prior to that, I had done logos, I had done the marketing. I was just doing that de facto as part of my job. So I was always doing the creative part. But that's really where I saw a tremendous opportunity to help build another agency, and started really from scratch, ground zero. And if it weren't for getting into networking, which is how we know one another.
Yes.
And you mentioned the sale. I joke that my average sale takes about 6 years from the time that I plant that seed. Yeah. So, but that's about relationship building. Yes. So then for the past decade was working with another agency and just had an absolute blast, and did a lot of amazing work with a lot of terrific people. But really throughout that time is where I was able to build really meaningful relationships, not just personally, not just professionally, but real holistic relationships. And that's what led me to start the Syndicate Agency.
Let's talk about the agency now. What inspired you to do this? It's a big step, right?
It is. And people ask quite often, do you wish you would have done it a long time ago? And the answer is no. I wouldn't have been ready to do it at that time, or I wouldn't have had the confidence at that time. So really what it was, Sandy, it's kind of a crazy story. I was sitting in my basement at 4 a.m. in the dark, listening to spa music and having a conversation with myself. I had just turned 55, seasoned.
Yeah.
Had just turned 55 and was really having that conversation with myself. What are you doing? What are you doing? You love what you do. You're great at what you do, but you're not having a great time. And why is that? How do we solve that? And it really, those 30, 35 years of experience were twisting around And it's a strange experience. And I've explained this to a few people, but it's like there was a laser focus all of a sudden. All of that experience filed in, and it was like a laser beam hit me right square in the forehead. And I said, I need to start a syndicate. And a syndicate is a group of business owners that work together for a common goal and work together as a team. So it was from there the Syndicate Agency was born.
Nice. Now, what do you feel like you can give to your with your clients with all this seasoned experience? And he has a radio voice. I just like every time I hear you speak, I'm like, radio voice. What is it about branding and marketing that you really love to give to your clients?
Something different.
Yeah.
But ultimately what they need. And that's where I think some people fail when they're so systematically driven when it comes to marketing, especially. There's a big difference between advertising and marketing.
Yes.
So a lot of marketing companies do a great job advertising. They don't do a very good job of the marketing and the overall strategy. That's not saying everybody, but there's a number out there that are just falling short there. And not every single peg fits in every single hole. And so when you're working with those types of marketing systems, you're missing the mark on behalf of your client. So what I aim to do is to, and none of my clients overlap, by the way. None of them are in the same industry. So that's really serendipitous, but it also gives me an opportunity to really dive in with both feet.
What's the best part of it, right? You meet with a client, you're sitting down, you find out what their needs are, where they want to go, their goals, their future. What's the best part for you that you really enjoy? Like, there's this, we got to do this, we got to do this, but like, what's the best part that you're like, ooh, I can't wait till we eat?
All of it.
Yes.
All of it, Sandy. I mean, it really, from the very first time you sit down with somebody, it's a conversation that you have. You're getting to know who they are, what their business means to them, what their role is in the business, what are their goals, what are they after. That's what's so exciting, because no two are the same.
Yeah.
No two are the same. So it's problem solving all the time, and you're problem solving on behalf of their business, which is, you can't drop the ball. You just simply can't drop the ball.
What's the number one thing you feel that clients hold back off on? Like, they're just not ready to do that. Is it like the SEO, or is it just maybe they need a new logo? Maybe they need to really just know, like sometimes when you're in business for so long, you kind of get lost in the dust and they need a rebirth. Like, where do you find is the hardest thing for clients that that they should be doing something, but yet it's hard for them? Well,
when you mentioned branding and logos and things like that, business owners are typically very, very tied to it. It's the first one, or that was something that my son helped me with that, or this was our idea, even though it may be missing. Brands change, and that's okay. Some of the most popular brands in the world change. They're the same, but they change. But people have a hard time with that. But as far as the step that people have a hard time with, it's allocating the proper budget to their marketing. They want to get off cheap, or they've got a guy, that does that, and that's fine, that's okay. So something that I talk about often with the Syndicate Agency is that I would love to speak with people that may not be ready to take that step, but we can sit down over a cup of coffee, sit down and have a conversation. Maybe we can spell out what your needs are, and we can create a marketing plan. So the consulting side is something that I really enjoy.
Yes, because you enjoy people like I do, right? It's that sitting down, having that coffee, that drink, that happy hour, and getting to know the person so you can help them better.
It's not the same conversation that you have over a conference table, that's for sure.
Absolutely. What is your ideal client?
Oh, that's a great question. A client that is willing to dig in with me. We have an amazing team, and you can really hand over the keys and step back if you'd like, but those aren't the ideal clients. I want clients that are really want to be involved. Yeah. They want to know why we're doing this, if there's things that they can do to help us on their end. So the ideal client, it doesn't matter the industry. The clients for the Syndicate Agency are, like I said, that none of them overlap, and it's a wide variety of businesses. But for those that are involved and those that are willing to do the work with us, then they're the ones that succeed.
Yes, because they let you do your talent. And when they have an input, you can do it better, right? When you have to guess and keep going to the drawing table, do you like this? Do you like this? But when someone is active with their thoughts and their creativity for their logo and their branding, it makes it a lot funner, right?
Yeah, especially when it comes to social media and
Yes.
even SEO. You mentioned SEO, and it's
Yes.
critical for businesses. If you want to be found, you need some juice behind it, and you need a solid strategy. It's not just about buying ads. We're all too savvy for that. How many times have you clicked on an ad when you're searching? It's probably not very often.
Not very often. No, I'm like, oh, they're trying to get me.
We do that for the right type of client,
Yes.
for the right type of campaign, or a particular season for a particular client. But we are working more on an organic side when it comes to the SEO, and where we get help from our clients is nobody knows their business better than they do.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to be able to help us with some direction. And that's also the blessing of doing what we get to do, whether it's networking or whether it's working in marketing. You get to know so many different people and different types of businesses. And then over the course of many years, working with these clients, you get to know their business.
Yes. Have you ever thought about like any collaborations that you would like to start, or what is it that you see the future with collaborations, with maybe lunch and learns? SEO, as I know, is like foreign language to me. Like, what do you foresee in the future?
Well, so what makes the Syndicate Agency a syndicate, a true syndicate? We have a syndicate client network. So those that are Syndicate Agency clients are part of the syndicate. And so we meet, we're targeting every 6 to 8 weeks, meet as a group of business owners. And they get and it's a little bit of networking. It's a micro networking opportunity for them with business owners. And not only is it with business owners, it's with business owners that they don't compete with. It's also an opportunity for all of us collectively. We have the Syndicate Agency in common. So it's a great opportunity for me to be able to address things with everybody at the same time. But then also get down to mastermind. So we have a number of leaders throughout the Omaha area that are leadership coaches, that are Vistage coaches, whatever it may be, tapped to be able to lead these mastermind opportunities with these business owners.
Do you need like a speech coach?
We could do that.
Let's find your voice, ladies and gentlemen. I love that. I like that you're building a community almost, right? Of professionals that sometimes you feel like you can't talk about things or you can't share things. But when you do, it really does solve problems that others have gone through or have already like successfully went over that.
Business ownership can be lonely.
Yeah, it can.
And you're the person that has to have the answers more often than not. So to be vulnerable and to know that others are having some of the same issues or may have had the same issue, and how do they overcome that, or what was the solution for that? Does it work for their business? This is a terrific opportunity for them to be vulnerable.
Yes. What would you give for advice for entrepreneurs out there, right? It's overwhelming. So, a lot of my Women with Voices, they're entrepreneurs and they just have a passion and they do it. But then they're like, oh my gosh, a business plan, advertising, SEO, like, what advice can you give to those young entrepreneurs? And do you have something that you do for young entrepreneurs, or what advice can you give them?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'd love to sit down and have coffee with just about anybody that wants to listen. And it gives me an opportunity then to listen to what they're after and where they're at in their journey. And so somebody starting out, those are the conversations that stick with me. Mm-hmm. They really are, because you are learning what challenges that they're facing very early on. Like I said, seasoned, that was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
What was the question again?
What advice would you give entrepreneurs out there when they have so much on their plate that they need to do? But when it comes, it's really branding, right? People need to see who you are first.
Yes and no. I mean, it's especially if it's in the marketing world, or if they're overwhelmed with the marketing world, which is easy to do because things are changing all the time. Yes. There's so much information out there, and people have to stay on top of what the latest trends are. And it's not necessarily from a trend perspective, but what's working. what's working, and how are we going to move the needle. So the advice that I would have for somebody starting out is not to be overwhelmed by that. Know what it is that you do. Stick to that vision that you've had and follow a blueprint. You have to be able to make that blueprint. You can't just go out and expect to make it happen. But relationships are at the core of building a successful business. No doubt about it. There's no question that we would not be sitting here right now if it weren't for Centersphere. If it weren't for Centersphere, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish a number of things that I've been able to accomplish. If it weren't for Centersphere and if it weren't for networking in general, I wouldn't have the relationships that I have with people that are very dear to me and will be for a very long time.
Yes. If that's one thing as seasoned professionals, is really everything builds on relationships, like you said. And people buy your story. They buy your passion and your purpose and your experience. But unless you don't take the time to get to know them too, it's just not going to build. The best compliment is when someone refers you, right? Mm-hmm. I refer you. Mm-hmm. They trust your opinion. And that is something I think all entrepreneurs need to start with, is relationships.
Absolutely. And relationships is one of our pillars at the Syndicate Agency. Trust, transparency, communication, relationships, and results. And you can't get results without the other four.
Absolutely. As going forward in the future, where would you see the future for the agency? Are you looking at podcasts? Are you looking at radio shows? Like, there's so much out there in advertising, old school. That's what I did for years, right? TV advertising, radio, print. What do you want to see in the next 5 years?
It's like you're reading my mind.
Oh, I do read minds too, yes.
So that is the ultimate step for the Syndicate Agency, is not just the agency as a whole, because frankly, I'm not interested in building an agency. I'm interested in taking care of the people that I'm working with. Yes. So it's less about sales and building. It's more about understanding the bandwidth that I have and the bandwidth of the team and being able to deliver top-notch service, not watered-down service for too many clients. So the future is not necessarily the agency, although that will always exist, but the future is building the brand of the Syndicate Agency. And you mentioned podcasts. So there will be a Syndicate podcast coming soon.
Nice.
And also speaking. So I've been asked to speak to a number of groups about that very thing, about recognizing being able to work within your bandwidth. When are you being spread too thin? So when you stand in front of a large audience and you ask them to raise their hands and say, how many of you are ready to take on more work today?
Yeah.
There's not many hands that go up.
So public speaking, right? I have listened to Christopher speak. He's a great speaker. But that's one of the things I think a lot of business owners take for granted, that they think they're not going to have to speak. Like, we all speak. We walk out that door, we're speaking. And that's sharing your purpose, your story, and what you do, your services and products. Do you feel that you're going to take that to the next level? Are you looking at something bigger with that?
It sure could be.
I think he has the voice. He has the presence. And that's really how you can educate, right? I tell people every day, when you can public speak and, sell what you were doing, right? Sell it. Because people, it's not really selling, it's helping people. You're giving them what they need.
And yes, and that is part of the blueprint. Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier how much I enjoy sitting down and having a cup of coffee or something with an individual, especially those that are starting out. Yeah. But when you can impact a group and compound that reach, that's something I'm really excited about looking more into.
Nice. Let's see, I'm gonna make sure I don't want to miss anything. Nonprofits. So I know you do a lot. You do the business fair, right? You've done that. What do you like about when you want to? I always ask people when I work for the Greater Omaha Chamber, what's your passion? Is it elderly, dogs, pets, food? Like, what is it? What's your passion for your favorite nonprofit and why? And what is it you like to support?
There's so many.
I know.
There's so many. And we mentioned networking, and I had a wonderful opportunity to work for Centersphere for a period of time, and was really blessed to be part of some great decisions and some things that really helped grow that community. One of the early initiatives was to try to have a nonprofit in every single chapter. And at the time, there weren't as many chapters. There were 2 nonprofits. But coming from that background, I know how important it is for nonprofits, and I know how difficult it is for development directors and people that are involved in those agencies. Many times they are the executive director, they are the founder, they are the board president, they're all the things. And that's something that they miss. So it's through those opportunities, through those networking opportunities, that I've come in contact with a number of nonprofits that I otherwise wouldn't have heard of. But some of our favorite, Project Pinked, right here.
Ooh, what's that?
Project Pinked is right here, local Omaha. They are an amazing volunteer-driven organization that works with breast cancer survivors and thrivers. My mother is a breast cancer survivor. The Project Pinked mission is one that's just near and dear. Chariots for Hope, of course. I had the opportunity to meet Jason and Michelle after they'd given away just 1 car.
Wow.
So that goes back a while, and to see what they've done is just absolutely mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. And there's the Little Giants Foundation is also very dear, and may know Aaron Kester's, but that's wonderful. So there's just so many. We could go on and on and on.
And that's what I tell people. Omaha is so blessed with so many nonprofits. You can't support all of them, but pick your favorites that you can do something with. Because when you dip in everything, you can't really give your time or your treasures or your money or whatever it is. But when you pick 2 or 3, then you can focus on them and really make a difference. Because I know you also have been a judge at the business fair for the Children's Academy, which we've both done. These young kids are so entrepreneur,
It's
right?
one of my favorite events.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's just like, wow. So as far as Christopher as a man, a father, a grandfather, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would you like to share about that? Like, what do you like to do on your free time? Like, what's your favorite thing to do? We have a few minutes. Like
All of that. Spend time with family.
Yes.
Yeah. More time with family. So that's something that we're all getting better at. But as the kids are getting older and the grandbaby's older, he's not even a baby anymore. That's where I love to spend my time. So I don't, I used to have quite a bit of tinkering hobbies and, maker of things all the time. And I just don't seem to have the time for that because I cherish the time that I can spend with my family.
And I tell people every day when I see these young mothers that are entrepreneurs and they have a chance, to be an entrepreneur, you can also set your hours, right? And be a mom and still, when they go to bed, work. So that's what's the greatness of entrepreneurship too, is like, and the older we get, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more we appreciate time.
That's right.
And it's spending the right time with the right people. And really what I love to do and talk about is like having that person in front of you at that time, give them your time and your energy and not be on your phone. And I think someday there needs to be an academy out there on how to communicate, right? Because, the kids that grow up with their cell phones and always on the computer, interviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think as you're sharply dressed is like some point it would be great to get seasoned professionals and come together and maybe do like a freebie class for seniors or something on communication.
Or teaching people how to just pick up the phone.
Yeah, pick up the phone and quit texting, right? It's like, and it comes back
It's amazing what you
Yes.
can solve with a couple of phone calls.
I love that. So what do you like to do as far as when you're out with your clients and they, what do you have like a roadmap questionnaire, or how do you start when someone's new in business? What's the first thing you do when you meet with them?
Well, it's never the same.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody that's brand new in business, that's a bit of a different conversation than somebody that's been in business for 60 years. One of our clients has been in business for 60 years. Another client's been in business since 1978. As far as what's the first thing, it's really understanding what their goals are. Why are we having this conversation? And oftentimes, as I said before, when you're planting that seed early on, and it is relationships, it's rare that you're sitting down and having a conversation, at least for me, with somebody that you're just getting to know, because oftentimes it's somebody that I've gotten to know very well. And now we're having a more in-depth conversation about what their goals are and how they believe that we can help them.
Nice. All right, we're getting close to time. I just have to ask you, hopefully you have the answer. Your first 45 record, what was it?
First 45
45,
record?
the little one.
A 45.
And anyone out there that doesn't know what it is, it's a little album.
It probably came off the back of a Sugar Smacks cereal box. So I don't know what that would have been, but I did have a lot of vinyl. I was fortunate enough when I was very young. My aunts and uncles are all not very much older than me, so we had an 18-year-old in the house often, and for a long time. They were just a different one. They all had different musical tastes and things like that. So, gosh, I was listening to the Knack and a lot of Elton John albums.
Yes.
Yeah. I even had an ABBA album. Yeah.
Love album. Okay, well, thank you. Mine was Baby Come Back. Da, 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 da. That was mine. I just came to me, but it was my first 45, and it was like $2.59.
Did you have it on the little tabletop?
Yes, I totally did.
player? Yep.
Yes, you know it. Okay. Well, thank you for being my guest. How can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
Well, I don't know if you want a phone number, if you want an email address, if you want the website. Yeah, I mean, like I said, pick up the phone. I mean, 402-881-2811. I mean, that's the best way to get a hold of me. Or Christopher at thesyndicate.agency.co. That is a .co, not a .com.
And he's great at Instagram, Reels, and video, so you have to follow him on all the social media platforms because he's just naturally creative. Thank you, Christopher, for being here.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now remember, go be creative. Be who you're meant to be. If you want to go start a business, do it. But you don't do it without Christopher. He's going to get you all the information and branding you need. But just don't let fear stop you, because when fear stops you, you're not being who you are meant to be. So world, go be who you're meant to be and go change the world. Thank you.